The grass was damp beneath their feet, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the yard. The house behind them stood quiet, its windows reflecting the bright sky, but within that peaceful facade, something intense was unfolding. In the middle of the lawn, a man stood firm, calm but fierce. His eyes were sharp, focused like a predator stalking its prey. He was of average build, but his stance was powerful, every muscle tense and ready. His sleeveless tan shirt revealed a series of tattoos winding up his arms, symbols of battles fought, stories told in ink. His dark pants were loose yet functional, perfect for movement. Today, he was demonstrating a martial arts technique, not for show, but as if he was preparing for something more serious. His face was set in a serious expression, eyes locked on. The two men who faced him, both younger, dressed in light khaki military-style clothing with tactical vests strapped tightly over their torsos. They looked alert, their bodies tense, ready to react, yet they were on the ground, one face down, the other turned to his side, both appearing defensive. The man in the center shifted his weight, lowering himself into a fighting stance. His movements were fluid, precise, almost like a dance, yet every move carried the weight of real combat. His voice, calm but commanding, broke the quiet. Remember, self-defense isn't just about fighting. It's about understanding your opponent, reading their moves, and staying calm under pressure. His voice was steady, unwavering. Today, I'll show you how to take control even when you're caught off guard. Without warning, he lunged forward. His hand shot out, aiming to simulate a strike. Yet it was controlled, a demonstration rather than an attack. The two men reacted instinctively, trying to block or dodge, but the instructor was quick, precise, demonstrating a technique that seemed almost effortless. The first man on the ground instinctively rolled to the side, trying to create space. The other, facing to the left, raised his arms defensively, eyes darting, trying to anticipate the next move. "Good," the instructor said, nodding slightly. "You have to stay alert. Always be aware of your surroundings. Even in training, you must think like your opponent. Predict their next move before they make it." Suddenly, he changed his stance, shifting from a defensive posture to a more aggressive one, stepping closer. His voice lowered, serious and intense. But training is only part of it. Real fights don't follow rules. You must be ready to adapt, fast. Just. As he finished speaking, he executed a swift move, grabbing the wrist of the man facing him and using his opponent's momentum to bring him down. The man on the ground struggled but was controlled, immobilized without harm. The second man, still, on the ground, watched carefully, his breathing heavy. The instructor turned to him, eyes piercing. "You see? It's not about strength alone. It's about technique, timing, and knowing when to strike or hold back. Control is power." He stepped back, breathing evenly, and looked at the two men. "You're learning. But remember, this is just a taste. The real challenge is in staying calm when everything is on the line. That's when your true self is revealed." As he finished, the two men exchanged glances, determined yet aware of how much they still had to learn. The instructor's gaze lingered on them, a hint of a smile crossing his face, knowing that this was only the beginning. But beneath that calm exterior, he knew something was coming, something that no amount of training could prepare them for. And as the shadows grew longer on the grass, the air seemed to hum with quiet anticipation. He studied their faces carefully, sensing their mix of confidence and uncertainty. The grass still shimmered with the afterglow of their last exchange, but he knew better than to let complacency settle. The real test was just around the corner, and he could feel it in his bones. "All right," he said softly, stepping back into a relaxed stance. "That was good for today, but don't get comfortable. Training isn't about perfect moves, it's about preparation. Tomorrow we're going to push your limits even further." The two men nodded, wiping sweat from their foreheads, their muscles aching but their eyes burning with a newfound resolve. The younger one, who had been face down moments earlier, sat up and looked at him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Sir," he asked hesitantly, "what's next? Are we ready for more?" The instructor looked at him with a faint smile, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of seriousness. "You're never truly ready. That's what makes this so important. You learn every day, and even then, you'll always be chasing something better. But you have to be willing to face what's coming and trust yourself when it happens." Suddenly, a faint rustling noise came from the trees behind them. All three turned their heads sharply, instinct kicking in. The wind shifted, and the leaves seemed to whisper secrets. The atmosphere thickened, as if nature itself was warning them of something unseen. The instructor's face hardened. "Stay alert," he commanded quietly. "This is just the beginning. Things are about to change." Without warning, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in dark clothing, eyes glinting with purpose. The men tensed immediately, instinctively assuming defensive postures. The figure stepped into the clearing, arms raised slowly, palms open, a calm but commanding presence. "Who are you?" the instructor demanded, voice steady but cautious. The stranger's lips curled into a sly smile. "Just someone who's here to see if you've learned your lessons well enough. You've been training hard, I hear. But do you think that's enough?" The tension thickened as the new arrival took a step forward, revealing a subtle scar running across his cheek, an unmistakable mark of someone who had faced danger before. The wind carried a faint metallic scent, and in that moment, everything shifted. The peaceful yard had suddenly become a battleground, silent, but heavy with unspoken threats. The instructor clenched his fist slightly, eyes narrowing. "We don't know who you are," he said carefully. "But if you're here to test us, then bring it on." The stranger paused, then chuckled softly. "Good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Let's see if your training holds up when the real challenge begins." And with that, he lunged forward, fast, precise, and deadly. The scene erupted into chaos, a blur of movement and instinct as the yard transformed into a battleground for a confrontation nobody could have predicted. In that moment, it was clear. Everything they thought they knew was about to be tested. And only one thing was certain. The fight for survival was just beginning. The air crackled with tension as the stranger's sudden attack forced everyone into action. The instructor reacted swiftly, dodging to the side and parrying the attackers. Strike with practiced ease. His eyes flashed with intensity, analyzing every movement, every hint of weakness. The two young men scrambled to their feet, instinctively trying to assist, but they hesitated, unsure whether to intervene or stay back and observe. The stranger was quick, his movements calculated and aggressive. He aimed a series of rapid punches, each one designed to break through their defenses. The instructor blocked and countered, but the intruder's relentless assault pushed him back, forcing him to rely on his training to hold the line. "Stay focused," the instructor barked, voice sharp but controlled. "Don't let him bait you. Remember your training." Meanwhile, the two men on the ground watched anxiously, their muscles tense. One of them, the younger of the two, clenched, his fists ready to jump in, but the instructor's hand shot out, stopping him. "Let me handle this," he said through gritted teeth. "You're not ready yet. Watch and learn." The fight intensified. The intruder suddenly feinted to the left, then spun and aimed a powerful kick toward the instructor's ribs. The instructor barely dodged in time, stepping back and retaliating with a quick palm strike to the attacker's chest. The stranger staggered but recovered immediately, a cruel smile curling on his lips. "You're good," he sneered, "but not good enough." The words hung in the air as the stranger pressed forward, unleashing a flurry of strikes. The instructor's focus sharpened, his body moving instinctively, matching every attack with precise counters. He knew that this wasn't just about demonstrating techniques anymore. It was about surviving a real threat. Suddenly, the stranger slowed, then abruptly stopped, eyes narrowing. "You've got skill," he said softly. "But this isn't just about fighting. It's about knowing when to give and when to take. You think you're prepared? Let's see how you handle this." Before anyone could react, the stranger disappeared into the shadows, his figure blending with the trees. Silence fell over the yard, broken only by heavy breathing and the faint rustling of leaves. The instructor straightened, his face serious, eyes scanning the darkening woods. He looked at the two men, whose faces showed a mixture of shock and determination. "That was just a taste," he said quietly. "He's testing us. If we're going to survive what's coming, we need to be ready for anything." A cold wind swept across the grass, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, but inside, a fire was igniting, one that would burn brighter as the real challenge drew closer. They knew this was no longer just training. It was a fight for their lives, and they had to be prepared to face whatever came next. The darkness of the approaching night wrapped around them like a thick cloak, but the resolve in their eyes burned brighter than ever. The instructor took a deep breath, steadying himself as he looked at the two young men who now stood a little taller, their faces streaked with dirt and sweat but filled with newfound determination. The encounter had been a stark reminder. This was no ordinary training session. It was a test of their limits, a call to awaken their true potential. "Listen carefully," he said, voice firm yet calm. "What just happened wasn't a fight. It was a lesson. The real enemy isn't always visible, and the battles you face won't always be with fists or weapons. Sometimes it's the fear, the doubt that lurks inside you. You have to learn to master both." One of the young men nodded, clutching his fists tightly. "How do we do that?" he asked, eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of anxiety. The instructor smiled slightly, the kind of smile that carried wisdom and patience. "By understanding your own strength, knowing when to strike and when to hold back. By trusting in yourselves even when everything else seems uncertain. That's what separates a fighter from a survivor." Suddenly, a soft sound interrupted the stillness, a faint crackling from the nearby bushes. Everyone froze, instinct kicking in once again. The quiet night suddenly felt tense, as if the very air was holding its breath. The instructor signaled for silence, listening intently. From the shadows, a faint figure emerged, moving with deliberate stealth. It was cloaked in dark fabric, eyes glinting under the moonlight, watching them intently. Without warning, the figure stepped forward, revealing a scarred face that told stories of past battles, past dangers survived. "You've come far," the stranger said softly, voice gravelly but calm. "But the journey's just beginning." The three men exchanged wary glances. The night had become a lot more than a lesson. It was now a chapter of an unfolding story, one that would demand courage, resilience, and unity. They knew that whatever this stranger's intentions were, it was a sign. They had to be ready for what was to come. The instructor took a step forward, eyes locked onto the intruder. "We're prepared for whatever you bring," he said steadily. "But know this, we don't back down easily." The stranger's lips curled into a half-smile. "Good. Then let's see if your resolve holds when the true test begins." And as the moon cast silvery light over the quiet field, the night stretched on, brimming with silent anticipation. The next challenge was inevitable, and only those willing to face their fears would emerge stronger. The story was far from over. It was just about to take a darker, more daring turn.